Today, we're going to dive into a process that's so common you probably never even think about it. Just getting things dry. But behind this simple task is this whole world of incredible power, delicate precision, and sometimes, well, even life or death stakes. So, let's start with a bit of a puzzle. What on earth do these three things have in common? You've got massive chunks of rock, a super delicate cashmere sweater, and sterile hospital sheets. I mean, on the surface, they've got absolutely nothing to do with each other. Well, the answer is actually pretty simple. They all hold moisture. And getting that moisture out is this universal challenge that, believe it or not, requires totally different solutions depending on what you're trying to dry. From tough as nails rocks to these incredibly fragile fibers, getting it right is a real science. So let's kick things off with the heavy hitters. When you're dealing with really tough, bulky materials, you don't need a gentle touch. Nope, you need an absolute powerhouse. Meet the industrial drum dryer. Just picture a giant rotating cylinder that blasts whatever's inside with superheated gas. And when I say superheated, we're talking 600 to 900 degrees Celsius. So yeah, definitely not for your delicates. So how does this thing actually work? Well, as you can see, the drum is always turning. And on the inside, there are these blades that are constantly scooping up the material. Then they drop it, and it falls right through this intense stream of hot gas, creating what the industry calls a product curtain. This just maximizes the contact with the heat, making the drying process incredibly efficient. It's simple, it's mechanical, and it is seriously powerful. And this kind of power, well, it's built for the really tough jobs. We're talking about the mining and earth industries, drying things like sand, ores, coal, and even recycled glass. All the stuff that can really take the heat and handle the constant tumbling. Okay, so this brute force method is fantastic for rocks and minerals. But what happens when your material is delicate, maybe expensive, and super sensitive to high temperatures? You can't just toss a cashmere sweater into a 900-degree kiln, right? For that, you need a completely different approach. We're talking less about brute force and more about a gentle, precise touch that uses some pretty fascinating technology. Enter radio frequency, or RF, drying. Now, unlike a regular oven that heats from the outside in, RF uses an electromagnetic field to generate heat directly inside the product itself. It's what's known as an endogenous process, which just means the heat is literally born from within. And here's where the magic happens, right down at the molecular level. Water molecules, see, they're polar. The RF field flips its own polarity millions of times a second, which forces those little water molecules to vibrate like crazy. All that friction creates intense heat. It's basically a hyper-targeted microwave that only heats the water, leaving the delicate fibers all around it perfectly safe. How cool is that? And here you can see the kind of stuff that really benefits from this. Expensive yarn packages, loose stock fibers, things that have to be dried perfectly evenly without getting damaged or having their properties changed. The quality of the final product really depends on this level of precision. So let's put them side by side. Convection, like in our big drum dryer, heats from the outside. This can easily over-dry the surface while the inside is still totally wet. But radio frequency, it's instantaneous and it's uniform all the way through the entire mass. It's all about control and quality. But having the right tech is only half the battle. How do you actually know you've gotten to that perfect level of dryness? Well, this is where quality control becomes a science all on its own. See, for high-value textiles, dry isn't just an on or off switch. You can't be too wet, but you also can't be bone dry. That final moisture content is this super critical measurement that affects everything from how the yarn performs to the final feel of the fabric. It has to be just right. And making sure you hit that perfect mark requires this incredibly meticulous lab environment. The layout has to be logical, so a technician testing for shrinkage has the washer, spinner, and dryer in a perfect, efficient sequence. All the equipment has to be constantly maintained and calibrated, and the staff, they need deep training to understand all the tiny nuances of every single test. And I just love this quote from one of our sources. Troubleshooting is only possible with knowledge and practical experience. It just hits the nail on the head. It reminds us that even with the best machines in the world, you still need human expertise to solve problems and guarantee quality. Okay, so we've gone from brute force to gentle precision. But now, let's really raise the stakes. What happens when drying isn't just about the quality of a product, but about our actual health and safety? In a hospital, every single surface is a potential route for infection, and that absolutely includes bed linens and gowns. There was this fascinating study that looked at how to effectively decontaminate textiles that could be carrying really dangerous multi-resistant bacteria. And the results from that study were, honestly, dramatic. Just look at this chart. The initial contamination level is high. The wash cycle alone, yeah, it reduces it by a lot. But that third bar, that's the real key. The tumble drying step is what truly decimates the remaining bacteria, bringing that countdown to almost nothing. The study even compared washing at 60 versus 70 degrees Celsius. And the key finding was, it didn't matter. The final result after tumble drying was identical. So here's the crucial point. Hospitals can save a ton of energy by washing at a lower temperature. But, and this is a big but, only if they follow it with a proper tumble dry. The drying is the great equalizer. And this, right here, brings us to the most critical, most shocking takeaway of the whole study. The researchers found that washing alone could sometimes introduce new bacteria onto the fabrics from inside the washing machine. It's a wild thought, right? Washing might make things look clean, but it's the drying that truly sanitizes them. Skipping the dryer isn't just less effective, it can actually make things worse. So, let's bring this all back together. From industrial grit to high-tech fibers and all the way to hospital safety. We've seen how drying can be all about brute force for minerals, about incredible finesse for textiles, and, amazingly, a life-saving final step for hospital hygiene. It's a process that is so much more complex and vital than we ever really stop to consider. It just goes to show you how much incredible science is hidden in plain sight, all around us. And it really leaves you wondering, what other invisible processes are out there, shaping our world every single day?